everyone. We are here with Chris from Pirelli. So tell us a little bit. I mean, your tire beat the lap record today, and it's beaten it multiple times. It set the lap record the very first time here on your tires. So tell us, how does it make you feel?
Well, Des, I got to say, it makes me feel really good. Really proud to rep the brand. And, we've been a dominant force when it comes to true outright performance, I guess. If I'm not mistaken, I think Pirelli owns 60 to 70% of the lap records at tracks across the United States as well as Europe. So they're doing a really great job in developing and engineering. And, you know, those guys in Italy work hard in the engineering department, and can't say enough about them.
So tell us a little something about Pirelli. Like, how do you decide which tire compound is best for a particular track, or like if it's hot outside, or if it's frozen, or if it's raining? Well, if it's raining, you put on rains. But, you know, for those race fans that out there that don't really know, because you go street riders, you have typical street tire. But you go racing, you have to have a race tire because we're in race conditions. So
that's a good question. It really is critical. Compound choices are not as simple as what a lot of people seem to think. There is a lot of thought that goes into it. You know, for example, we're here in northern central Texas. It's, I don't know, ambient, 100 degrees. Earlier when I checked the track temp, we were at 143. So it's, you know,
and there's no shade on
no
our
shade.
track.
Yeah. So it's hot. But here in Texas, you know, we run pretty much year round. Our race season with CMRA starts in February and goes to usually late October. So we really get to experience a lot of different weather conditions throughout our year. So when it comes to tire compound choices, the temperature also, obviously plays a huge role in that. But a lot of other things factor in too. You know, we go to probably 5-6 different tracks just in Texas alone. We go up to Oklahoma, over to Louisiana. A lot of our guys go ride with Wira and Azra, so they're at, you know, Colorado, Barber, Road Atlanta. So what I definitely look at is understanding the tracks, and I think me personally, I've been racing for almost 20 years, so I've experienced almost all these tracks that these guys are going to. So we kind of know a little bit of history of the surface, how long it's been since a repave. The older the track, generally the more polished it gets, and generally we'll go with a softer compound, even in a cooler temp, to get that grip, that edge grip that we're looking for. When it's hot out here, Pirelli's a little bit the opposite. The hotter we get, the softer the compound that we run.
And I did not know that.
Yeah. So every compound is made to work in a heat range and a temperature range. So our 3 is our hardest compound. Our Q is our softest compound for the big bikes. And, you know, so I have a little bit of insider information of what the operating temperatures for those particular compounds are. And, you know, I talk to my guys. I'm very close with my guys. I know them all personally. I know their families, you know, and we strategize. And sometimes we make last-minute decisions. Today, this was one of those weekends where we broke the lap record. With 2 people, honestly. JC broke it compared to last year's lap record by a whole second as well. He was only 4/10 off of Mikey's lap record today. So, and both of those guys made last-minute choices. We decided on Friday that we were going to, instead of running a 0, we're going to run an X. And it's paid off, and we've had quite a few of our customers come by, and we've made some last-minute choices just because of the heat.
Awesome. That's amazing. For those, like, street riders out there and those race fans out there, a lot of them will be like, well, can I just take like a typical motorcycle street tire and ride it on the track? Why would it not be a good idea for them to do that?
The key reason is just the construction of the tires are completely different. You know, all of your true track tires are going to be, the carcass is going to be a lot more flexible, so that when you're at lean angle, if you've ever seen a slow motion picture or a still photo of somebody coming out of a corner, you'll notice that rear tire is almost flat. So there's a lot of energy there, but we need that carcass to flex to give you more contact patch when you're at lean angle to help get you moving forward and keep the tire on the track. So that's the main reason. With a street tire, they're really designed for longevity. They've got a really heavy carcass. It's a lot of steel. It doesn't flex very much. And it's designed to give you safety on the road for debris and stuff like that. But Pirelli does make what we call a track day tire, which is a good hybrid tire. It heats up really quick like a street tire, so you don't necessarily have to run warmers. And we have a lot of good performance, especially guys coming from the street onto the track days here with RideSmart. We sell a lot of those SE3s and the SE3 DOTs. They perform really well for your entry-level guys just getting into this. So, it's just something to keep in mind. And confidence is the main thing.
Yes.
I think any racer would tell you that when it comes to being on the track, whether you're racing or just doing track days, we're all looking to go faster and faster and faster.
Feel comfortable.
And if you have the confidence, that's one thing that you don't have to think about while you're riding. You trust your tire. You're going to go faster 9 times out of 10. So really that's what it is, getting the experience and having that confidence. It's expensive now, so you want to make the most of your track time, and that's what we're looking for.
And another thing, speaking of tire temps and all this stuff, how important is a racer to have tire warmers and to use tire warmers?
That's a really great question. I am the hugest proponent of tire warmers. A lot of people think that we just throw them on there because we want the tires up to operating temp when we start the race, and that is true. But a big reason that we use tire warmers, especially when you're on and off the track, maybe within 30 minutes to an hour, we don't want that tire to heat cycle. A typical track, I'm getting 205 degree tire temps when we come off the track, which is pretty high. But let's say you're at a track day and you've got an hour and 15, 20 minutes before your next session, and you just park the bike. Well, yeah, it's still 100 degrees outside, but that tire is going to come down to 100 degrees. So anything over a 55 degree temperature swing is considered a heat cycle. A heat cycle is the worst thing you can do to a race tire. They may look really good, and you'll see it, especially guys that don't ride that much. They'll show up. They've had that tire on the bike for over a year. Well, I only rode 2 track days on it, but it's been sitting in their garage, up, down, up, down. And the tire looks beautiful. The wear dots look great, but they get out on the track, the first thing they do is lose the front, and it's just a degradation of the chemicals inside the tire with a heat cycle. Buying good warmers. All warmers are relatively expensive. I highly recommend buying an adjustable warmer, a digital temp warmer. And the reason why is, like I said earlier, in Texas, we ride in the cold months, middle, hot, and then middle, then back to cold again.
And then rain. Sometimes ice.
We've done that before. I didn't make it. I got to turn 1.
Bro, when I was a Provnov, I was on Pirellis, and I was racing an R3, and it was in May at Crescent, okay? At Crescent, in May, and Friday, beautiful weather. You couldn't ask for
I think it was mid-60s or something.
No clouds in the sky, and then all of a sudden we go to bed, and we wake up, and there is icicles hanging off of the fence, and we're all just where'd that come from?
Yeah, I remember stepping out of the trailer, and I remember waking up. I was like, why is it so cold in here? And I walked out and I saw ice on the ground, and there were sickles dripping off my canopies, and I'm like, what in the world just happened? And that was an interesting weekend for a lot of people. Definitely for us, trying to make last minute decisions and changes about pressure, and and going back to the tire warmer, the adjustability is, like I said, if a heat cycle is detrimental, but the other thing you have to consider is let's say you set your tire warmer on high, it's probably most tire warmers are going to be 180, 190 degrees, right? If you get that tire to 190 on the warmer and then you go out to a track that's 45 degrees, it ain't going to work. The first thing that's going to happen is you're going to decrease in pressure tremendously. So let's say you wanted to go out at 25, 26 hot off the warmer, and as soon as you sit on the grid, you've already probably dropped 70 degrees. And now your pressure went from 25 probably down to 18 or 19. Air pressure is a direct derivative of heat. Like anything we know in the world, the hotter you get it, it expands. So that air does the same thing to a tire. So having a digital warmer that you can navigate with the client or the climate there's days that we might set a front to 100 and a rear to 130. And like today, this weekend, we're probably at about 175 on the front and 185, 190 on the rear. You know, we're trying to keep that temperature in the tire similar to what you're going to experience on the track, so we don't gain or lose air pressure while you're riding. And we've tracked that data. We've got real-time tire monitors with temperature, both internal temp and external temp, that we log all the data. So I can see if a rider by lap 1, he's increased PSI 1 PSI. Lap 2, he's up to 2. Lap 3, he's up another 3. And what that tells me is that his warmer either wasn't adjusted properly, or the warmers that he does have are not getting the tire hot enough, and the tire's still gaining in temperature and pressure while he's on the track. So tire warmers are critical. Buy a good digital warmer. We sell thermal technology, which has digital on the tire carcass itself, as well as adjustable rim heaters, which helps keep all of that heat in the wheel. Because if you think about a traditional tire warmer, it just heats it from the tire and then it tries to heat soak into the wheel. And if the wheel is open and bare, all of that heat will escape through the wheel. That's why a lot of times, old school, we wrap blankets on it and all kinds of stuff, keep the wind. And that's what the purpose was, to try to keep the heat in the tire so it doesn't grow or shrink.
So, all of this tire stuff, our main goal as a racer is to try to be as close to the weather as possible.
Correct.
So if the weather changes, our tire temperature is going to change, or our compound may change.
Correct.
So it's all according to the weather. And we're in Texas, it's always changing. Like yesterday, all of a sudden it rained.
Yeah.
Out of nowhere.
I thought I was back in Hawaii. I was like, it was sunny, but it's pouring. I didn't understand it.
And it got the track literally soaking wet.
Yeah.
And then our race was declared wet. And we were so confused.
Yeah. Which lasted all of about, 9 laps before it dried out?
Yeah. But they were big drops. I thought it was hailing. I thought it was hailing. But one last question, so I know you can get back to doing your job. You got a lot of clients out here that love and care about you.
Well, I appreciate it.
What is, say for me, for instance, I'm a smaller person. I don't weigh that much. How do you choose what compound to use from, say me, who is a little smaller, a lighter racer, to Alan, who's a 200 and something?
Yeah, sure.
How do you choose a compound, and how do you choose what tire pressure to use?
A lot of that decision on my part just comes from years of experience. I ran into this. I'm a small guy. I'm 130 pounds, so compared to all the other guys around here, and I'm really short. And that affects it. The less weight that the rider has, the less energy that they're driving into the front tire under braking, or driving into the rear tire under acceleration. Height has a lot to do with it too. A lot of people don't think about leverage. Alan's 6'4"?
Yeah.
Yeah, and we're 5'4". So
I wish I was 5'4". That's a dream.
That tells you how short she is. So that also comes into play too, because while Alan might be 80 pounds heavier than me, it's not 80 pounds just sitting in the center of the motorcycle, because it's really more about what you're doing under braking and what you're doing when you're leaned off the motorcycle. So at 6'4", he's got a good 8 inches on me, and that 100 pounds, it's not right there on the seat. It's 8 more inches away from the motorcycle when he's leaned off the bike. It's 8 more inches over the nose of the tire when he's hard on the brakes. So I try to take all of that and do my little brain algorithm, and some of it's trial and error. I mean, a lot of it's trial and error, but like I said, that really came from experience of just racing so long. And with me being small, I'm small for the average rider in CMRA. Yeah. I'm really realistically built like somebody you would see in Europe. And I had to learn, back in the days, you go to the tire guy and they just give you a standard air pressure. And, it worked for some guys. It didn't work for me, so I just kind of took it upon myself to start learning. So I encourage everybody, same thing with suspension. We got our guys here, Jimmy and John, that do a great job adjusting, and, they're truly the professionals. But, if you're at a track day, you don't really have access to that stuff, right? So I encourage, play with the clickers, play with the rebound, play with the compression, preload. Like we alluded to earlier, it's all about comfortability. And if you get faster and all of a sudden the bike's wiggling and wobbling, when I came into the sport, I think I did 2 years where I just rode like a madman. I didn't know anything about adjusting a bike, and somebody pulled me aside and said, hey, you need to fix that. And I'm like, fix what? And they're like, you need to adjust your bike. So that's when I met a guy and, kind of went from there, and it really makes a difference. And everything you can do to feel comfortable on the motorcycle, that's what we're looking for.
Well, thank you so much for talking with us, and I appreciate so much for the sponsorship and sponsoring CMRA Live this race weekend. And y'all come join a track day and talk to Chris about getting some race tires.